everyone. Tom Craig here. Welcome to my podcast. It's called The Help Side, where not only do I play some funky intro music, but I also speak to some of the most recognisable names in world hockey. Now, the help side is a term in hockey that refers to the other side of the pitch, away from where the ball is and the action happens. And in the same way, the aim of this podcast is to give you, the listener, an insight into the other side of elite hockey players, to hear about their highs, their lows, what makes them tick, and the journeys they go on from starting out as kids through the achievement at the pinnacle of our sport, be it success at the World Cup or Olympic Games. Whether you're a player, a coach, an umpire, a parent, a fan, or just a fan of sport in general, I'm hoping this podcast gives you a window into the world of elite athletes, and even better, encourages you to get more involved in our great sport. Without much further ado, I'm going to introduce the first guest to my little show. Goes by many names: Jeremy, Nuff Dog Hayward, J Dog, Jerry Boy. That's all I got. Today we're going to the help side of Jeremy Hayward.
Hayward for a second, into the net it goes! Oh, it's Hayward. Oh, look at 8. It's Hayward again, a double! 5 for Australia, 2 for Jeremy Hayward. Utter domination from the men in gold.
Well, he's a big, tough, strong, athletic defender and a deadly penalty corner drag flicker. Over the past 5 years, Jerry Boy has been one of the mainstays in the lineup of the Australian men's hockey team, the Kookaburras. Moreover, Jerry has enjoyed plenty of success in the international arena, winning gold medals at the World Cup and the Com Games. Not bad for a kid from the NT. But it hasn't all been plain sailing for Jerry. In this interview, we talk about the challenges of relocating to Perth as an 18-year-old, the disappointment of the 2016 Olympic campaign, as well as what it's like to live with a partner who's also an elite hockey player. Jez is honest, reflective, and as you'll hear, a very funny guy with a great sense of humour. I hope you enjoy the help side of Jeremy Hayward. Jez, are you there?
Tuning in, Tom.
Excellent. I need you more than tune in. I need you to contribute. This is about you today.
Okay.
How you been?
Yes, nice.
Different scenery.
Yeah, it's different. I'm stuck at home with my beautiful partner Brooke. If we come out this together, I think we'll be doing bloody well. Or really well. Sorry.
Is that a prospective proposal? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we've had I'm sure this is the case with all relationships now, but yeah, we've had our little fights, we've had our separation time, but we're doing all right.
Maybe I should run some sort of like relationship advice show, and you can be a co-host.
People sign up for money. There'll be thousands of people signing up.
Thousands of people for your advice. Right, all right. We're going to dive into it, okay? With something topical. It's no surprise to many people that the 2020 Olympics has been postponed. That's no longer groundbreaking news. But what people don't know is the way it was broken to us at a team meeting. Just for the listeners at home, on the 23rd of March, I believe, it was a Monday. We had a 7:30 a.m. meeting at the High Performance office in Perth. And within 5 minutes of the meeting, Coach Colin Batch told us that the Olympics were no longer going to go ahead in 2020. And I'll throw it over to you. How did you feel when you heard that? That was pretty crazy, yeah.
It was a crazy time. I had sort of inside knowledge. I was late to the meeting, getting my breakfast from downstairs from the kitchen, and it was probably 2 minutes before the meeting was about to start. And I think everyone was under the impression that was just a normal culture meeting from Fitz. But 2 minutes before the meeting starts, I was racing down the hallway to get up the stairs, and I saw Batchy with a worried look on his face, and I think he just got a phone call just then with confirmation of the Olympics being cancelled for us then to start our meeting and to find out that.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I kind of, like the way you said it, I suspected that he'd known for at least a day. But then again, it was kind of weird that we didn't have any notice before the meeting. You know, like we obviously Fitzy, who you mentioned, is our culture coach who lives over in Tweed, and he was supposed to come over for a week because we had our European Pro League cancelled. So it's supposed to be like a week of kind of working with him. And with the travel restrictions, I found it pretty strange that he was even coming over, and then we were hit with that. So that's surprising that you tell me that you reckon Batchy just got the call.
Yeah. I was also worried that because he's a bit older man and sort of at risk at the moment. So yeah. I thought he shouldn't even be there to begin with.
You're talking about Fitzy?
But yeah, Fitzy. But yeah, we did. I think we found out that meeting and training was scheduled to go ahead, and I think we all decided together it just wasn't safe. It wasn't the right thing to do, and people wanted to get home to their loved ones and family and friends and sort of support them.
Yeah, that's true. And for you personally, I know we went around the room and spoke about like how we felt in that immediate moment, but how did it hit you?
Cool. I think I was a bit devastated. You've sort of been training for a few years now to get to that point, and I was pretty fit. I'm sort of lost a bit right now, but going through, I was a bit devastated, but it was always going to happen. Like it was only getting worse. Probably relief that they've sort of said it earlier than later. But I was devastated but relieved at the same time. But also just right now, I don't know where I'm at. We don't have a return date, Tom, and we're sort of sitting in limbo. Probably like almost everyone in the world. What do we do?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you've been telling me that you've been going for 5K time trials.
Well, you're allowed out for exercise. So and it only lasts about 45 minutes of time trial.
Yeah, it's good. No, I agree with you. It's pretty weird. It's a weird feeling to kind of have your sights set on like a really close immediate goal, like a July Olympics, and then have that postponed again. There is definitely a period where you have no idea what to do with yourself. But as you've said, you've found time to fight with Brooke and that sort of stuff. So filling in the time.
For sure.
How else are you filling in the time?
I've got uni. I'm not yet bored enough to do my uni, so I'll have to knuckle down on that. I've got 2 assignments due in about on the 21st.
21st of April. Well, that might be time for this little segment to be produced and put out. So what are you working on? Maybe we can phone in with some advice.
I'll have to read my assignments. I've got one, diagnose a plan. I'm just actually reading the title of the assignment.
What are you studying?
I'm doing a Bachelor of Education.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm following through with some important learning. But as a teacher, you're sort of forced to cram and make do with what you got. And so just training that element of my degree.
True.
So I'll sort of fit in the last week. I'll be able to fit in my last 2 assignments and see how good they go.
Right. And so obviously we're not quite in that professional athlete category, far from it. In fact, although perhaps about as professional as any athletes rolling around at the moment, with everything that's going on with COVID. But it's important to you to keep studying while you're playing, or why do you do it?
I just do it for a plan, sort of outside of hockey. I do get a bit not bored of hockey. I sort of like fatigued in the brain, just thinking hockey over and over again. So it's sort of a nice little relief to learn something new and something challenging in terms of like bettering myself to better someone else. And I've done a couple cracks at a few schools now. I'm sort of like 3/4 of the way through, and that's the fun bit, going into schools and teaching the kids how to do something. And it's quite rewarding, teaching them new maths equations and maths sort of situations where they learn. You see them start to understand the dynamics of what's going on. That's the rewarding sort of part of me, and that's what I'm sort of taking towards teaching. Although being a PE teacher is the ultimate goal, I think. playing games all day outside on the lawn would be the best job it could be.
That's fair.
And as I sort of go with all this homeschooling right now, I reckon teachers might get a little upgrade in pay because the parents will be, they know how hard the teaching is, and they'll be happy to give the kids back.
Keen to get them back to school. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
People might not know. In fact, I'm fairly certain most people wouldn't know this about you, but you're the reigning Kookaburra Connect 4 champion.
Yeah, well, that was pre Tim Brand.
Right. You reckon he'll beat you now?
Well, he thinks he has a mass. He thinks he has a mass brain, but he hasn't come up against the
king.
Ricky Bobby.
What from? Is that Talladega Night saying?
The always 4 moves ahead. What's that song?
That's anyway. Hilltop Hoods.
Yeah, Hilltop Hoods. What's his?
Bobby Fischer. Bobby Fischer.
Yeah, the chess champ.
So you're the real Bobby Fischer. That's what you're saying.
I am the real Bobby Fischer. So, and Connect Fours, it was a fun game, and it is maths. And I haven't yet found a challenge in the team.
Oh, really? Okay.
A challenger, sorry.
Move on to something else that I've been looking at for a while, and it's your biography on the FIH Pro League website. I don't know if I've only just discovered these today.
FIH Pro League.
Yeah. So you've got your own bio on here, and what it has is a Q&A with Jeremy Hayward.
Right. I don't know when I would have done this.
I'm just going to go through. I'm going to go through a few of your answers and just see if you can just shed some light. So, one question is best advice you've ever been given, and from who? Do you want to have a crack at answering that yourself, or do you want to go with what you've got down here? Let's go with what you got down here. So it's from Dylan Wotherspoon. You said he once told you must cross the river before you tell the crocodile he has bad breath. Can you just extrapolate on that a little bit for me? What do you mean by that? Because that is a profound piece of advice.
Well, it's quite a dangerous situation to be in. So
very dangerous. As a Darwin boy, you'd know that as well.
Yeah, you must never insult people until you're done with their needs. I guess I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know where that came from.
Well, I'm telling you, these are your words. Apparently, we're going to move on. You mentioned here 3 words that describe. This is classic. 3 words that describe you. Very, very cool. If you could have any job in the world, what would it be? A food and beverage taste tester. Your worst quality on the field. I don't know if I have a bad quality. These are serious. I'm not joking here.
Where?
I'm not making this up. I promise you. On the FIH player profiles on Pro League.
I'm trying to think back when we would have done these. Is that?
Look, we fill in. People might not know, but we fill in a lot of Q&As, and we don't know when they're going to pop up. So it is possible, mate, that you didn't take this one that seriously, and it is one of the ones that is readily accessible to the public. Last question for you from the Q&A. I got a couple more questions, but this one's good. Your favorite teammate and why? Do you want to hazard a guess at who you chose?
Oh, if I got a bit of information from Dylan Wotherspoon, it might be Dylan again.
It is indeed Dylan again. Favorite teammate and why? Dylan Wotherspoon, because he lacks in a lot of departments such as his appearance, his communication, his abilities, and this all makes me feel better about myself.
Oh, that's a good one.
So along that thing,
I think we might have been sitting next to each other when we were doing this. And is it?
They're good, actually. They're very, very good. Well, anyway, we're going to go on to some other quick questions. The crocodile advice is great, but do you have any other advice for any kids that might be listening, or perhaps a past self? Any good nuggets of wisdom?
Yeah, I reckon just enjoy yourself. Have a bit of fun, laugh, smile, and celebrate too. That'd be my biggest sort of advice to my younger self, or to anyone sort of coming up. It's not all about the hard work. It's you gotta enjoy the hard work. So otherwise, you're not going to go far.
Nice, like what you do.
Exactly.
Nice one. All right, a few quick questions. Best player you've ever played with?
There's a few, and sort of I got lucky enough to play with. So there was like DY, Jamie, Knowlesy. There's a few up there that were, one Tom Craig's pretty handy. No, but yeah, I'll put you in that category. There's a few guys that I got lucky enough to play with. It was sort of surreal. Like you sort of look up. I've got a Legends of Hockey poster somewhere around here. Not hanging up. It'll be hanging up somewhere.
I would also say,
got DY, Rob, Knowlesy, and Jamie. So yeah, they were sort of guys I looked up to, and I was lucky enough to sort of play with all of them.
Pretty elite guys, especially in the World Cup. I think they were probably, you know, they were the core of that team, I guess, weren't they?
Yeah.
And it also might not be public knowledge, but you did actually win an auction for a Mark Knowles signed stick that I can't see on the wall behind you, but it is there. There it is. Can you tell me what you paid for it?
It was I was having a bit of fun. I was sort of bumping up the auction, and I ended up I like the piece because my head's front and center right next to the World Cup.
It looks good. So you were bumping up the price and then got stuck with it. Is that what happened?
Yeah, well, I was happy to stick with it. I should have actually sold it when he retired. I would have made a fair bit of money.
That's true, but it's a pretty good piece of memorabilia to have Knowles' signed stick.
One of 10.
1 of 10. I've got a signed Auskick AFL ball of Knowles'. I might frame that as well. Best player you've ever played against?
Played against? I don't know. Probably Mo Furster. He probably wouldn't know who I was, but I was on the end of his career, but I got to watch him when he was in his peak, and he was sort of he just controlled the game. He was just an absolute weapon in the midfield, and then he sort of moved back to the defensive area, and he just controlled the game even more back there. He was sort of on the getting older as I was sort of coming into the hockey scene, so I never got to play against him at his absolute peak, but the best player that I watched.
Yeah, nice. I was meaning to ask you earlier, speaking of players at their peak, 2 NT boys who are probably among the best players to have donned the jersey since maybe 2000, Des Abbott and Joel Carroll. Pretty awesome players to watch. I remember Joel, I don't think I've ever beaten him in a contest. I don't know. I can't remember anyone ever dribbling the ball past him. And also a wicked passer of the ball. And Des, you know, often we go to training and people will just be talking for, 10, 15 minutes about one training session that Des did or something like that. Do you want to just share a little bit about them? And obviously they're close mates of yours. So yeah, I reckon I'd be really curious to hear about what your thoughts of them as players and being, I guess, mentors for you coming over to Perth. Yeah,
so super close with Joel. So I never got to play for Australia with Des. So because he was sort of on the way out after London, he missed that selection and it sort of all fell out from there. But yes, real close with Joel, training day in, day out with him. I realised early I wasn't the same player as him. I sort of couldn't really steal much off of his game because he had a seriously good eye, seriously good tackle, and I didn't really have the same sort of abilities. I had a different sort of style to him, but he could pass the ball. He was a good defender and a good outletter. He just lacked an overhead, the old Joel. But he was just a bit unfortunate that his body couldn't keep up with his mindset. But a good player and a good bloke as well. I loved hanging out with him. He moved to Melbourne, so I don't get to spend much time with him now. But and Des, growing up, because Leon played a fair bit with him for the state territory stuff and under 21s, under 18s, and he just won with that sort of group growing up. He won under 15s, 18s, and it was silver medalist at one under 21s. And I got to watch a few tournaments because Leon was at the same tournament, and he got player of the tournament probably more times than Ed. I reckon he was an absolute jet. Probably won the territory some state champs. So he was growing up. He was an absolute machine, and he was just got a bit of size on him, and he was too strong. In the circle, he could score from anywhere, and he just hit the ball so hard. It was ridiculous. Yeah,
it's funny. I mentioned before, but people talk about Des with almost a bit of romance, you know, like when people talk about him, like some of the stuff that he could do, it's as if I remember.
Mesmerising.
Yeah, exactly. I remember Swanee telling a story about how I think Des hit all 4 corners just like in one flow drill. It was top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. Like no problem. There's no stopping it if you got the ball going on goal. We're gonna go back to the start, if that's all right with you.
Yep. Long time ago.
Born, it is. How long ago is that?
2000. Oh, moving.
When you were born. When you were born.
Oh, 27 years now.
20 what?
27. I know that.
27. You're kidding me.
They added another year this year.
You're 27 years old. Jeez.
Yeah.
That is new. All right, mate. Well, 27 years old, running into the twilight of your career. Going back to the start, you're from NT. You're a Darwin boy.
Darwin, born and bred.
Only one in the squad currently from Darwin.
Yep.
But from a long list of very successful NT Kookaburras. Can you tell me what it was like a little bit just growing up in Darwin briefly? Can leave hockey out of it for now, and we'll get to that. But just in general, what was it like growing up in the NT?
Oh, I loved it. It was the best experience. It was sort of everything. It's like a small sort of town. Everything's so close. I could be in the city within 2 minutes, be out in the bush within 5 minutes, and you didn't really know everyone, but you sort of all the schools knew each other. It's not like it was too sort of out of place, but it was small, tight knit, and really good actually.
Yeah, loved it.
I loved it. And it allowed me sort of being able to travel around within 2 minutes. It allowed me to play different sports and get out and about. I played a bit of cricket, played a bit of rugby, gymnastics when I was young.
Gymnastics, Jerry?
Yeah, I got a few.
What was your discipline?
Well, I did a bit of floor, high bar, rings. What else is there? There's
news to me. Gun to your head, could you replicate some of your floor routine?
No. I've lost. I could still do a backflip.
Seriously? Off the dead?
No, not onto the ground, but off like a little bit of a height.
Yeah.
But not from ground to ground.
Right. Okay. So you mentioned quite a few sports there. I actually heard it said by someone, I can't remember who, actually, I think it was yourself, that you could have been successful at any sport. For those of you who don't know what Jared looks like, he is a reasonable athlete. Although he's not the fastest, fittest, or the strongest in the squad, he's a pretty good athlete. So, Jerry, is that true? Could you have played any sport? Is that what you did? You played every sport growing up and ended up with hockey, or what happened?
Yeah, I think I was sort of just a bit advanced when I was young. I was a bit better physically than everyone else, and sort of everyone's caught up to me now. I don't know. I'd like to think I could. Sort of back myself a bit. AFL, I watch the AFL and I watch it live and when it's on.
Big fan.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm that fit. I don't know if I can run. Well, they do some big distances and
they do. Carlton fan, huh?
Huge
massive Carlton fan. Right. Okay. So the season, they're not going too bad this year, are they?
Yeah, they've lost one.
Not bad. That is not bad. When was the last time they lost one for a season?
Oh, I don't know. Probably
never.
You have
to go way back. And you ended up in hockey.
Yeah, hockey. Mum was a big sort of powerhouse pusher behind that. She coached me all through juniors. She didn't really push me. She loved her hockey and she played for the state, for the territory when she was growing up. And she just loved giving back to the sport. So she coached our club team, Waratahs, basically me and my brother all the way through under 10s, 13s, 16s. And then she sort of stepped back when we went into seniors.
Sure.
So she could sit back and enjoy her work, basically.
The fruits of her labour. Exactly.
So she was there the whole way through, and Dad was also watching, supporting. Hockey's a big family thing, community thing, and it was like that. You sort of big community at hockey.
Yeah, and you mentioned so playing with your older brother. Inevitably, am I wrong in saying that you moved to Perth to be a part of the AIS, but it wasn't your typical move whereby you're selected in the squad and then you move over. Can you tell us about moving to Perth?
It was, so before they had the squad, they had the AIS sort of scholarships. And Leon already moved over. So I did my final year of school in 2010. Leon already moved out over at 2009, I think. I'm not rough dates, but then mum and dad sort of wanted to go help Leon out because he was struggling over here with housing and with like trying to settle himself in, sorry. And then so and it just so happened I got an AIS scholarship, so I could train with the squad in 2011, and it was something I wanted to do, but it was all fast tracked at the same time because I didn't get to really enjoy like post school, what the gap year and the fun year or whatever they call it, and then I went straight to Perth and flung straight into the training. So it was a wild experience, but I was lucky enough to sort of move over with mum and dad back in with Leon, and it was we had our own little family down here as well.
Now I'm going to briefly interrupt here to introduce a feature of the show. We'll call it our Hero of Hockey segment. We know that community sport flourishes on the back of hard-working volunteers who give up their time and effort simply for the love of it. And we want to give you, the listener, the opportunity to contact us and tell us who deserves to be our Hero of Hockey for the week. Tell us who they are, what club they're from, and what they've done for the sport, and we'll give them and your club a shout out. So get in touch via our socials and your nominee could be chosen for the next episode. To give you an idea, I'm going to start us off by giving you not one, but 3 heroes of hockey, all from my home club, Ryde Hunters Hill Hockey Club in Sydney, Australia. Our first 2 heroes of hockey are Brad Clary Parks and Phil Dasher Retford, who in the last few years have both notched up a whopping 1,000 games from the Mighty Panthers. To give you some perspective, that is 49 consecutive seasons playing hockey for the same club. Special shout out to Clary, who is both mine and one of the producer's first under-11s hockey coach. Our other hero of hockey for the week is Greg Finley, who is the juniors coaching coordinator at Ryde and does a magnificent job managing the delivery of the club's junior coaching program alongside Larry McIntosh. You'll find him at the hockey club most nights of the week, either coaching a team, setting up drills, or supporting other coaches. When he's not at the club, he's sending out weekly drills and session plans, and he also coaches for Hockey New South Wales. Greg basically does everything that's required to ensure the club's junior program runs smoothly, is fun for the kids and parents, and hopefully produces some future Kookaburras and Hockeyroos. Well done, Greg, and thanks for everything you do for your sport. Well, that's our Hero of Hockey segment done for the week. Now let's get back to the interview where Jez is telling us what it took to crack into the Kookaburras squad and discusses some of the highs and lows of his Kookaburras career so far. With a sport like hockey, I guess, and for those of listeners, I guess, who don't know how it works, basically there's a squad of 27 each year that are the scholarship holders, and then there's a development squad outside of that. And I guess everyone's encouraged to move to Perth because it's kind of like a hotbed of high performance hockey in Australia, which can be a pretty long way considering a lot of people who are in the squad don't come from Perth. But I guess you were lucky in a way that there were already a few Darwin boys already over in Perth with you that helped the transition.
Yeah, so there was a few down here actually. So Joel and Des were obviously here training in the squad, and then a couple of my hockey mates moved over as well. So Taz and then eventually Dwayne moved over. So we had a little sort of Darwin set up in Perth, and we were all here sort of mucking around almost. And there was like Joel and Des were there to help. They sort of got me comfortable with the team. Sort of, it was easy to slide in, especially with them there. I mean, if they went there, it would have been a little bit more difficult sort of to make friends and sort of hang out with the same people that they were hanging out with. But yeah, it made the transition a little bit easier, for sure.
Yeah, true. Do you ever feel like you moved over a bit too early, or?
Yeah, because I moved over just before, like just turning 18. I mean, and you still have you have your house parties when you're sort of 17, 16, and that was happening in Darwin. Moved over at 18 and sort of didn't know any school friends. I do think moved over a little bit too early, or the other option was to move over earlier, make a few friends from school, year 12, do year 12 here, and sort of and grow out with them onwards. So yeah, I think I came in a little bit of a weird patch with no friends and only hockey friends, and you sort of find yourself only hanging out with hockey people, talking hockey, and that's where I sort of found out I need to sort of do something different.
Yeah, true. I guess uni be helpful in that regard, or is it all online? Or
yeah, I started internal studies, so it was a good way to find friends and sort of copy off people, sort of manipulate them, get them to do your work for you. It was no, it was definitely needed to be able to make friends at the uni. It was just hockey for one stage there.
Yeah, fair. And so you moved over in 2011, but you didn't make your debut for the Kookaburras until 2014. But pretty quickly after that, you went to the World Cup, where you were named the junior player of the tournament. I was just having a look at your stats, Joe. Pretty impressive, actually, and did surprise me, to be honest. You've scored 65 goals in 156 games. As a drag flicker,
really?
that's pretty good. That's goal every third game, I guess. That's very impressive.
I didn't know that, Tom, by the way.
Well, wait, what's that? I think for people who can't see at home, Jerry's got a whiteboard behind him that has a tally of his caps and his goals. But you scored 3 goals in that World Cup, which is no mean feat considering that you were probably behind the likes of Kieran Govers and Chris Zarella in the flicking hierarchy, and they were having pretty fantastic tournaments. But I guess most impressive is that you'd only played 16 games before you went to that World Cup. Can you tell us a little bit about the lead up and that whole experience?
Yeah, well, I'll just backtrack a little bit here. From that 2011 is when I come a bit early in that sort of time where I was a bit unsure what was happening. So I did lose my way a little bit, and I ended up having a bit of fun and sort of drinking a fair bit. And then it was 2012 where I lost that scholarship and I lost everything. So I wasn't even training with the group, and it was Olympic year, and I was sort of young and wasn't ready, and I sort of understood that. But I then realised that this is what I want to play hockey for Australia. So 2013, I really knuckled down and got fit and got strong, and probably got a little bit too big after the gym. So it was 2013. I got back into the squad, training, and I didn't get my chance in 2014 because it was like a cracking team, especially that defensive lineup was like Joel, Fergie, and Knowles, Easterello, Devo. There was Brownie was in there. There was heaps. I could go through and name them. I was sort of last on the run for defenders, and just filling in. So then I did train pretty hard. I worked pretty hard, and it was lucky enough to get my chance in 2014 as on Shah, March, I think it was. And it wasn't many games at all until the World Cup, and I sort of I was enjoying getting better, challenging at training, and just I was enjoying my hockey, and sort of showed when Rick gave me the opportunity to play in the World Cup, and that led me to the World Cup where I was young, 21, and it's like not that experienced. I didn't know what was going on. It was the World Cup in The Hague, the joint World Cup. So it was massive. People were watching all over the world, and especially people in the Netherlands. They'd come out in thousands to watch, and it was the whole stadium. It was a soccer stadium, so the turf was laid in a soccer stadium. They had 15,000 capacity plus a second turf. They had another couple thousand there, and it was just a good experience. Yeah,
I think a lot of people have mentioned that with a sport like ours, very rarely do we have the opportunity to really see what it's like to be, one of the most professional athletes, like the top codes, your footballs and your American codes. And a lot of people have mentioned that the World Cup in The Hague was a little taste of that. It definitely did look like a pretty professionally run World Cup.
It was, and it was running so smoothly. We sort of didn't even know what was going on. We showed up for our games, and then back to our hotel, and we didn't stay at the tournament hotel, so we were even more isolated from the whole setup. So, I enjoyed it. I was a bit young, sort of naive, didn't really realise how many people were watching, didn't really have any thoughts about failure or anything like that. So it was all just, I was just having fun.
Perfect. And the results spoke for themselves. I mean, I think looking at the stats, Australia scored over 30 goals for the World Cup and conceded 3 or something like that, and ended up winning 6-1 in the final, which is a performance that I don't think many teams across many sports could say that they've had a more dominant World Cup. How did it feel to be a part of that team? It was obviously so elite, and with some of the players at their absolute prime. What was it like?
It was actually a seriously awesome experience, and there was something weird happened that World Cup. So just pre that World Cup, we had I don't know how many people know, but we had Simo and who was the other one? Russell Ford. They were in the team.
Russell Ford.
Yep, and they were, unfortunately, they were injured in a couple of warm-up matches against GB when we before the World Cup. So they've broken foot, and I think something I can't remember off the top of my brain. But yeah, so Goadsy, Matt Goads, and Tim Deven were brought into the team, and they sort of, I don't know what happened, but they brought a little bit of fire or something. Most of the games, I think we scored within the first 5 minutes against these teams, and we put teams on the back foot straight away. It was until the final where we got scored against Perth in the first 5 minutes or something like that. So it was crazy. I don't know what happened. We were so aggressive, full press, flat out. It was still halves then, 2 35-minute halves, I'm pretty sure, and it was good to be involved.
Yeah, and obviously Rick Charlesworth was the coach, and some of the things that you're talking about there, like the halves and the full press, really would have played to kind of the fitness side of things. I guess the Kookaburras at the time were probably considered to be like an all-out offensive threat and just kind of ground teams into the dust, I guess, because they were considered, I don't know, physically superior to oppositions. Or how was the prep in that, and is that a fair comment or no?
The gameplay was sort of, it was around pressure, and we'd sort of put, every time you got the ball, we're going to put you under pressure, and let's see how you operate under pressure. Let's see how accurate your passes are, how good your everything is basically under pressure. So, and it was fitness basically. So we're going to chase you down all day, and we'll see how good you are. And we were just fit enough to do that for 6 games or something. And because we had 2 days break between most games, we were able to sort of keep doing it, game in, game out, and it was just, we're just going to go harder than you, basically. We're going to run harder, we're going to work harder, and see if you can keep up with us.
Yeah, and it certainly looked that way. Watching from home, I remember watching all the games there and just thinking the Aussies are on another level. We're going to fast forward a little bit and talk about, because there was some time obviously that elapsed between the dominance of the World Cup and the Rio campaign. I guess hockey is kind of in the, like, at the top flights. You kind of look at a career in terms of cycles. So I guess there are probably 2 main things that most players look forward to playing for the country. One's the World Cup and one's the Olympics. So we're going to flick forward to the Olympics. Your first campaign, as you mentioned, the 2012 one you weren't involved with, but the 2016 one was something that was a pretty, well, it would have been it was quite the experience for you, being selected as a reserve, which people talk about as being one of the hardest positions in the sport, and perhaps one that's not really spoken about too much. So do you want to just touch on what that was and how that played out?
The whole campaign, or?
Well, I guess, like, from your perspective, I know, so for people who don't know, 16 athletes are selected to go to an Olympics, and typically the World Cup was 18, and I think all other tournaments you take 18. So 16 is 27 people in the squad who all live and train and are pretty much best mates. To cut that into 16 is pretty difficult, and that means that people miss out. And for yourself, you were one of the reserves going to Rio. Do you want to talk about, first of all, missing selection, and second of all, the experience of being a reserve?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. So going on from that, I was sort of selected for everything from that, and I was sort of confident. I was really, I didn't want to say complacent, but I think I was. I sort of got overconfident, and I was just too, chest out to everything, So that was sort of, it was bad for me in a way where I went to the Olympic cycle, went through, and I in my brain, I thought, yeah, I'm no worries here. I've played everything since my debut, and it just worked out that I didn't make the team, and it was probably the best thing. Looking back on it, I was devastated when it first happened. I was filthy. I was angry. I couldn't. It was a struggle to go back to training and stuff like that. But it was, looking back on it now, it's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me, to realise that it doesn't just get given to you. You have to actually earn it every single time. And it was something that I go to training now. If I see myself slacking off, I say, well, up to you, mate. You do what you want to do. That's my own thought process coming to training, and when I catch myself being lazy and stuff like that. So yeah, looking back on it, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, not getting selected. To realise
just a bit of context. Sorry, so people often ask us when's the team going to be picked, because there's obviously an Olympic squad that gets picked at the start of the year. And then with the Olympics being a European summer affair, often what happens is we don't know the Olympic selection until 3-4 weeks out from the actual tournament. So you're training more or less all year for that selection, for that one email to come out, I guess. And then in between selection and the selection of the reserves, there's another couple of weeks, right? That's a difficult 2-week period. So how did you, I guess, just talk through selection, and then talk through that kind of 2 weeks before the reserve list came out, and what happened in that space?
It was quite different, because my partner Brooke as well, she was training all her regimes and stuff like that. So, and she got the email, the positive email. She was like, she's happy to go, and I could see her. She didn't want to sort of celebrate, because we lived together. She didn't want to celebrate too hard, and I didn't want to sort of bring her down. It was sort of, we were weird in the same house. She didn't want to rub it in my face, and I didn't want to bring her down. We were sort of just brushing past each other. Oh, nice work, blah, blah, blah. So it was, part of me was like, I want to be happy for her. So I showed up for her ticket collection. They do some heaps of presentations with the AOC, and I had to see the other guys receive their ticket collection, which is just a big plane ticket they get, that they're saying they're going to Rio and stuff like that. So I showed up and I saw that, and I was trying to be happy, but at the same time inside I was devastated. So I put on a front almost. You have about a week off to sort of take everything in and understand what just went on. But yeah, put on a mask and sort of rock up to training. You realise that there is a selection for 2 more to go over as reserves, and I quickly realised it'd be a good opportunity to sort of learn even more. I was still only young. I was 23, 24, something like that. So it was all happening pretty quickly, and I don't know if I had my best thought process, but it was like, just go and try to enjoy it, see how you go. There was still practice matches being played, and you weren't playing your best hockey. I knew I wasn't playing my best hockey. I knew I wasn't sort of in the right headspace to be training and stuff like that. So I was pretty keen to sort of still be involved in the Olympic cycle and get there. And I was lucky enough to be selected into the 16, 17, 18. So it was sort of bittersweet, but it was, at the end of the thing, it was sort of worthwhile.
Yeah. Just with the relationship with Brooke, you mentioned earlier about when you move to Perth, often your only friends are those in your team, and there's a big hockey. It's kind of hard to break out of that. So I imagine that would have been a little bit tough as well, being obviously a lot of your best mates have realised their dream to be an Olympian, and for yourself, like, I guess you'd want to share that with them, but also such, the disappointment of not making it yourself. Did that extend to, like, how does that play out in a group setting?
In terms of the squad that I was with? Yeah. Well, I think they were a bit more thoughtful of me rather than me to them. Sort of, they were reaching out to me saying, hard luck, blah blah blah. All their messages coming through is you wanted to reply, but you didn't reply. I said thanks, mate, and moved on. It was trying to. I don't know. I was devastated, but I was also trying to support them at the same time. So yeah, you go get it, mate. Go on. But yeah, there was a time after that where I sort of realised the week, maybe going through, you realise that, well, hang on, I can still have a huge hand in these guys going all right in the Olympic cycle. If I'm down in the dumps, they're going to sort of start worrying about me. They're going to be texting me, thinking what I'm doing rather than thinking they're hockey. So I sort of needed to put on a positive, sort of confident front for the guys, so they can just worry about their own thing and play some good hockey.
Yeah, nice. Back to the actual selection of the reserve. Obviously, you were doing enough to be picked as that 17th and 18th man. Once you were picked, was that a bit of relief, or what was the emotion that hit you after you got picked?
I'm not sure how the email came out. I think was it an email? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was an email. Yep.
So we got told that we're heading over, and because we were still unsure about what the sort of dynamic was, and we were just told that it's the worst position to be in. You're within arm's distance, but you still can't play. So I didn't know my mindset sort of going in as a reserve, and it was weird because as the more you go on, like the likelihood of injuries is going to pop up as well. Because I'm pretty sure Tristan White was selected in the 16, was injured before the reserve selection. Am I correct there? So it was sort of, that sort of put another thing in my mind. So I'm still a chance here. I can still make an influence, make a positive sort of contribution here. So we found out, and then going through the, like, I didn't know what to think. I only got told negative things after selection, saying it's the worst position. But yeah, going over, it was sort of the best time over in Rio, sort of just on the outskirts. I would have gave anything to be involved, but still, I enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, for sure. And sitting on the sideline while, I guess there aren't. I guess you couldn't really say it any other way. The Rio campaign was quite disappointing for everyone involved. As a reserve sitting there, it's a difficult position whereby you're involved and you're watching your best mates play and try and realize their dream, but also it's a difficult. I can imagine it's a difficult environment to kind of find yourself in. How did you feel like while all that was going down and watching the guys play, and yeah, what was it like?
Yeah, it was pretty hard to watch. Sort of, we were in limited meetings. We were staying on the outside as reserves. It was pretty hard to get in and out. So therefore, we were in limited meetings with the team. So we weren't like 100% involved in their plan and their structures and stuff like that. We still had a good idea of what they wanted to do and where they were sort of aiming to go. And I don't know. I can't explain what happened. It was just sort of something just wasn't working, wasn't clicking. We won the first game against New Zealand. It was like scraped through, didn't we? 2-1 or something like that, 3-1 maybe. It just wasn't working for us. I'm not sure what happened. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was just tough to watch from the sidelines, seeing like, from the selection, the coach had belief in those 16s, and they sort of, I guess he believed in them more than he believed in me. That's the fact of the matter. So I don't know how I could have helped. I don't know what I could have done. It was just hard to watch from the outside.
For sure. And yet you credit the experience of being one of the best things to ever happen to you.
Definitely. It was the experience over there was unreal. The experience of the devastation was something I'll never forget, because it's going to be so important for my future selections. It was for Tokyo, and for tournaments beyond. So it's the whole campaign, the months before and the months after, it'll be so important.
Yeah, true. Moving on then, with obviously you were a young Kookaburra then, 23, 24. I said you're in the twilight of your career, but realistically, you're probably approaching your peak years at 27. There's a lot of good hockey left in you.
28 is the peak.
28 is the peak. Is that what they say? 28 to 32. Isn't that the performance zone?
Well, for hockey, I guess.
Yeah,
Not
sure.
for AFL would be about 20. What? 2, 3?
22, 23 is a performance zone for AFL.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Maybe higher. Like 5. Dustin Martin, they're pretty old now. 27.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Well, we'll stick with hockey. We'll get on to AFL later if you want. But obviously now I guess you're pretty much a mainstay in the team. Last year you tied second, I think, in the 2019 Kookaburras Player of the Year voting. Is that right?
Well, I claimed it. There was no chart that came out that was of the order. It was just Batchy announcing the names, and I was
on your way up to the stage to collect when he.
They said my name, so I stood up and only to be followed by Eddie Offenden. So I didn't know what was happening there.
You had a ripper year. You scored a lot of goals. You played most games, every game.
Oh yeah, a couple I missed. I mean, just a bit of rest from Narrogin or something like that.
Sure. So between Rio, obviously the experience of Rio, and now I guess we've gone almost a full cycle. What would typically be a full cycle, had not there be the intervention of COVID-19. But new coaching staff, new squad. How's the last couple of years been for you and your progression and I guess your enjoyment of hockey?
So Batsy's come in with with his own sort of coaching team, and he's brought in a new style. He was originally, he's been coaching all over. He's done Belgium, New Zealand, most recently, and now Australia. So he's been coaching all over, and he sort of brought in a different game style for the Kookaburras, and it was the half court sort of zonal press. And growing up in Australia, Australian hockey, no one's ever done that. So we started from almost scratch for that structure, that style of hockey. And we struggled early because we didn't sort of know the ins and outs of the whole setup and how to play it. So, but I reckon it was good for me because it changed the game a little bit. I have to think a little bit differently about skills and stuff like that. You have to get a little bit better at hockey rather than just trying to just out-muscle and outbeat other players, basically. So you have to sort of outsmart them now with this half-court structure, and it was a good change.
Yeah, you're saying with full press, your role basically is just to run with someone until they don't run anymore or they turn the ball over, basically. Whereas with the zone, you've got to be thinking about a whole bunch of different players who are coming in and out of your zone. So it was a welcome change. And you're also a member of the 2017 winning World League Series final winning team, which was pretty big, and I guess a good positive step in the right direction for this squad. In between then and now, have things changed? And had the Olympics been this year, who would have been the teams to watch out for?
I'll skip straight to the Olympics because I don't want to give too much away on the gameplay. Because the Olympics
I was just testing you. That's good.
Yeah. So Belgium, I think, number one at the moment, would have been a hard team to beat. I mean, the Dutch are always good. Germany, they seem to always pop up the right time in the Olympic cycle. India, they've sort of now got Chris and Graham Reid over there, so they're stepping up. It's a hand in the hat to who wins Olympics, really. It's the little things that are going to count the most. Any team from rank number 1 to probably rank number 10 could win the Olympics, and it's just that's how fine it gets. Obviously,
as a Darwin boy, we're just going to finish with this. The hockey in Darwin at the moment and in the NT, is it struggling a bit? Do you have much to do with hockey over there? Obviously, being in Perth would be a bit difficult to contribute, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is struggling. That's obvious, and it's. I mean, the new hockey one's just come out, and we couldn't field a territory side because of money issues, I believe, or something. Something fell through. There was they've changed all the dynamics of the structure and all that stuff. So we weren't able to field a territory team, and that was huge devastation and effect on the hockey community up there, because they don't have a goal to go towards it, the men and the women. So the juniors are coming up, and there's less people playing now. There's we're doing what is it, under 16s is now 9 aside. So we can't even field 6 teams in under 16s. So it's the juniors are sort of struggling, and it's in combination with the AFLW coming along. Like the young girls are sort of getting attracted to football now. There's a bit more sort of attractive sort of stuff, and hockey's sort of just losing its interest a bit. And Pro League's trying to sort of do its thing, do its bit by giving back and being on the TV a fair bit. But yeah, other sports are just dominating up in the territory. And I don't get back nearly as often as I like. Jamie went back for a little coaching clinic. I couldn't even get back to help him there. So I try to, if I can, I'll go back and do clinics, but just to sort of get people involved again. But yeah, I don't get back nearly as often as I like.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a shame. Like NT, especially with the likes of what we mentioned before with Des and Joel, are pretty overrepresented in the I guess Australian hockey community. There's so many great players to come from there, yourself included, and your partner Brooke. Obviously, it is such a shame, especially because like we do go and play in Darwin. We see how much people in Darwin love the game, and they always turn out well. And to be honest, the crowds we get in Darwin are sometimes much better than the crowds we get in Sydney, for example. And I've seen the way that you kind of interact with the crowd, and that's pretty beautiful as well. I mean, you go up and spend a lot of time with the young kids who come out with their hockey sticks and chat to them on the fence. So it does certainly appear that your heart's well in Darwin, and yeah, I guess it is a shame that the sport's kind of struggling out there.
So Joel's moved to Melbourne, but Des has moved back to Darwin, and he's coaching. He was meant to be coaching under 18s territory side this year, so which I think now has been cancelled. So he's sort of back there, and that's sort of something I want to do as well. Go back and live there, as well as sort of give back to the hockey community. So they helped me in my career, and something I'd like to do, go back coaching
and teaching.
Sort of the young coaching and teaching back in the territory. But yeah, so Des is there helping out as much as he can. But it's the interest that's struggling. I mean, there's people just sort of floating off now. It's footy's taking over. Rugby has sort of got a fair few people. Cricket's also popular up there. But yeah, it's something I need to sort of invest a bit more time into. I'm sure of it.
And outside of hockey, obviously you've made mention that you want to settle in Darwin. Are you much of a fisherman, Jerry? There's obviously a lot of barra to be caught out there. Do you fish a bit or?
Yeah, watch out. If Ed's going to listen to this, he's going to come out and write a comment underneath saying not.
It's yes or no. Do you?
Well, I don't fish as much as... no, I don't fish at the moment.
You don't fish?
No.
You do have a tattoo of a fish on your ankle, though, which would suggest otherwise. People might infer that you love fishing.
Fishing's... I reckon the fun bit's going out onto the boat and a little dinghy with your mates and having a few cans. That's the fun bit. And if you're lucky enough to catch dinner...
That's a bonus.
Out of the water, that's the bonus, but you can also still buy dinner on the way home.
And no harm done.
No harm done.
Perfect. All right, mate. We're going to leave it there. Speaking of bonus, it's been a bonus having you on board. First ever episode. Maybe last. Who knows? Who knows how this goes? But you've been good. Great, in fact, Jerry.
Sure, I wanted to add a bit more humour, but we got a bit deep.
You got to possess it to add it, Jerry. Anyway, on you, mate. Thanks for having us. Thanks for spending the time with me. And
good to be on the help side. Did you want to thank?
Yeah, that's good. Give it a plug. Yeah. Just say this has been the help side with Jeremy Hayward.
This has been the help side with Jeremy Hayward.
Big thank you to the production team of David Moore, Tim Collier, and Jimmy Stevens. Also, a shout out and big thank you to Luke Darcy, our graphic designer responsible for our snazzy logo. I highly encourage you to go to lukedarcy.com if you have any business requiring a graphic designer. He's fantastic and a very, very good bloke. He will sort you out, no problem. If you do like The Help Side, please like, subscribe, interact. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us at The Help Side on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's it for now. We'll catch you on The Help Side next time.